afternoon, all the participants online. I'm Xinhao. I'm the Dean of Office of International Affairs of National University of Kaohsiung. And this is live from Kaohsiung. And this is our 6 weeks of the Asia Virtual Academy lecture series. And today we have our pleasures and our honor to invite Dr. Shankar Kumbhar from the Rajarambapu Institute of Technology from India. Okay. Hi, Dr. Shridhar.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. And Dr. Shridhar. Okay, so I would like to have these briefly introductions to Dr. Shridhar. Dr. Shridhar worked as the assistant professor at the RIT Institute in India since 2010. And he works on the area of environmental engineering, and he received awards from the Best Researcher Awards in 2018 and the Best Researcher Award in 2019 in a row. And he's also the Distinguished Young Teacher Award in 2020. Dr. Shridhar received his PhD from IIT Bombay, and he has also got his Master of Technology in Environmental Engineering. And today, Dr. Shridhar will give us the topic. It's very hottest topic about the green transportation. And as we know, that the COP26 just read up a few days ago, and the Prime Minister Modi from India also announced ambitious goals for India for achieving the net zero emissions by 2017. So I think the green transportations from the greenhouse gas emission reductions in transportation sector is also critical for India's roadmaps for achieving this ambitious goal. And I think RIT is noted for engineering and manufacturing for the battery, and the other. Yeah. So I think it's without any further delay, I think I will just give the floor for Dr. Shridhar for his presentation about in this topic. Okay, thank you. It's your floor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me opportunity and presenting my work on this green transportation. I'll just share my screen here. Well, I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Welcome to all for this topic on the green transportation. First of all, I would like to thanks to all the organizers of this Asia Virtual Academy 2021 fall, and which comes under this climate change and global challenges lecture series. And nowadays, I think this is one of the important topic that we have, because there are various types of countries and they have a different type of developments, and all these developments directly as well as indirectly that leads towards the global impacts. So that's why we must have to understand what are the different type of issues that we have to consider at the national as well as at the international level, which will help us to minimize the impact for the environmental condition. So one of the important part is the transportation that we have. So that's why today we are going to discuss about this green transportation and how this green transportation which will help us for the sustainable development goals. So first of all, going for this green transportation and green technologies related with respect to this transportation. First of all, we will understand about what is the concept of transportation and how it started with respect to each and every country. Okay. We know that transportation is regarded as an index of the economical, social, as well as the commercial progress of the countries and their development that we have, and all these development that related. Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. So all these developments are related with respect to the index of economical development, social development, as well as this commercial progress of these countries. And this transportation includes all these aspects, that is the transport with the help of rail, road, by water, as well as by air. So all these means of the transportation that we have. So if you taken the progress of this transportation, which is given in this graph, which indicates that from 17th century onwards, there are various types of transportation means started. And initially it was started with respect to the animal force, or we can call it as a biological force, which was used in a very large quantity for the transportation purpose. So one of the basic transport was with the help of horses. Then the by understanding the limitations of this the animal force, then it was shifted towards the mechanization, and the water transportation was started with the help of shipping system. Then shipping was started within the river system as well as in the ocean level, and its interconnectivity that was done with the help of this canal system. Then by road as well as the railway systems was started, and it was the real start for the economical growth for the different type of countries with respect to the industrial development as well as the social development that we have. Then after that, there are various types of road networks and their developments. Right now we can see majorly we are using this the water transport and road transports along with the railways and the air transports. So all these are the various types of the modes which will gives us the different type of developments in our systems. Okay, so here we can see the how this transport is related with respect to the developments. So here I have comparison with respect to the different countries and their population with respect to the annualized public participation as well as the gross domestic products and their developments and growth, which indicates that as if we have a proper development in terms of the industry, along with we have a proper development for this transportation means, then ultimately you will get a proper development for each and every sector. Okay, so this is the importance of this transportation that we have, and this transport that we are doing with respect to this land, water, air, and using the various types of applications for the mankind and its developmental purpose. And this can be done with the help of these railways, highways, waterways, as well as these airways. Now we can see there are various types of classifications of this transportation that we can carry out. So first of all, the classification of this transportation that we can carry out with respect to the surface point of view. So surface point of view, we have seen that land, water, and air. Then again, we can classify with respect to communication, that is human porter, then animal transport, then road transport, rail transport, air transport, water, pipeline, conveyor, and cable and ropeway transports. These are the various types of means of communication that we have. The next is the classification based on the freedom to move laterally as well as vertically. So in that case, we can see 1 degree, 2 degree, as well as the 3 degree freedoms that we can adopt for the transportation purpose that we can classify. And last one is the classification based on the energy which is utilized for the movement purpose, and in which we have the human energy, animal energy, petrol and diesel energy, steam energy, electric energy, solar energy, atomic energy, and other types of non-conventional energy sources like batteries, hydraulic energy, geothermal energy. So all these are the various types of means of energies that we have by which we can classify the types of transportation that we have. And the overview of this classification of this transportation indicates that we have several means and modes of transportation, and ultimately it is utilizing the different types of fuels, and ultimately it will gives us the different type of impact on the all the types of natural resources, because we are preferring the transport with the help of air, water, as well as on the soil. Okay, which indicates that there are various types of impacts which are given by this transportation. Either it may give us the positive impact as well as the negative impacts. So in the case of positive impact, we can consider about the developments which are related with respect to this infrastructure, developments related with respect to the communication, then developments which are related with respect to the industries, then the societal developments, and the overall mass development, or we can call it as a the the upliftment of the rural areas with respect to the increase of the transportation that we have. These are some of the positive points that we can get with the help of this transportation means. But similarly, we have the negative side of this transportation, that is the different type of bad impacts which are given by this one. So first of all, it will gives us the different type of load of pollutants. The impact of the different type of pollutants, mostly the transport system, that will gives us the generation of the air pollution. Second one, it will also gives us the impact on the water quality, and also the different type of load of disposals which are given with the help of means of this transportation on the soil. Ultimately, it will gives us the different type of impacts on the air, water, as well as on the soil. Okay, so all these kind of impacts that will gives us the change or the degradation of the various types of nutrients, as well as the natural resources that we have, are getting badly affected by this means of transportation. So that's why it is the need that we must have to understand that what are the different type of alternatives of this transportation which are available, and how we should go for the minimization of the impact. Okay. So here we can see there are various types of challenges which are available with respect to this transportation system. As we know that transport is one of the important mechanism that we have, which will gives us the different type of developments. So first of all, just because of the excess amount of transportation, that will result in terms of the congestion as well as the parking difficulties. So this is related with respect to the road networks and their developments. If you have a limited development of this infrastructure, but still there is a larger development which is related with respect to this automobile vehicles, which ultimately results in terms of this congestion as well as this parking difficulties, then the longer commuting, that is the time required for the traveling, that is also one of the major part that we have to consider. And if the time required, if it is more, then it may gives us the different type of impacts on the transportation which are related with respect to the quality aspects. Then the public transport inadequacy that we have, then difficulties for the non-motorized transport system, then loss of the public places. So there are various types of public spaces that we have which we can utilize for the different type of greenery and its development, which is current demand that we have. So that can be compromised with respect to this transportation. Then high infrastructure maintenance cost is required for the transportation. You can take an example of your road networks. In the road networks, we have the paved surfaces, which are of two types. One is the flexible pavement and second is the rigid pavement. And for the maintenance of such kind of pavements, there is a very large amount of maintenance cost is required. Similarly, there are various types of docks and harbors as well as the airports which we need to construct for the different type of means of transportation by air as well as by water means. Then there are various types of environmental impacts as well as the energy consumption, which is given with the help of this transportation system. And these environmental impacts that also we have to consider in terms of this transportation means, and the energy which is getting consumed or utilized. So that is of different modes. Maybe the fossil fuel is one of the major source of energy that we are using, which results in terms of the generation of the very large amount of pollutants, that also we have to consider. Then also with respect to this transportation, there are various types of accidents as well as the safety issues that also we have to consider, and that is also one of the major challenges that we have. Then there are various types of land footprints which are given by this transportation, which is not a green in nature. That is also one of the important parameter. And last one is the freight distribution. That is also one of the major issue related with respect to this transportation and their challenges. Okay. So here we have some of the information which is given by this source of this climate change, which is published in 2014, which indicates that the public transport, how we are going to utilize, and the urban mobility level which is given, that is from x-axis it is given for this urban mobility level from low level to high level, and at the y-axis it is given with respect to this private level to the public level for this ownership of these passengers modes. Okay, so as we are moving from private to public, it is having a different scenario. So this indicates the complete scenario, which indicates the transit oriented system, hybrid cities, and the car dependency that we have. So if we are moving towards the private, then the more dependency is given on cars. Then in the case of public, the transit oriented systems that we have, and it is having some of the optimized type of conditions. and still for the betterment of the economy as well as for the development purpose, we must have to go for the various types of hybrid cities and all that, which includes the bus as well as the various types of transport mechanism, then bus traffic saturation that we are getting. If it is getting increased, then we have to go for the more development of this transit oriented, or else the people will prefer towards the car dependency type of systems, and ultimately it will hamper on the different type of impacts related with respect to the load of pollutants generated by this transportation means. Okay. So here we have this type of load of pollutants which are generated by this transportation. So first of all, the type of pollutants which are maybe primary, secondary, as well as the tertiary types of pollutants that we have. And along with that, it may give us the different type of the impacts, maybe the short impacts, or we can call it acute impacts, or else it may give us the long-term impacts. So these are the various types of parameters of these pollutants which are related with respect to this safety of this transportation. Then second is the major issue related with respect to this transportation, that is the generation of the gaseous pollutants, which will result in terms of the air pollution. Then the noise pollution, that is also part of this transportation. Then energy consumption, we know that we have a very limited amount of energy sources which are the conventional sources right now that we have, and in that case we must have to go for the optimization in the case of utilization of these types of energy sources, as well as we must have to go for the identification of various types of renewable types of energy sources which ultimately gives us the least impact on the environmental condition. Okay. So these kind of pollution related parameters that we have to consider with respect to this transport, and why this transport and pollution is important. This is given with the help of this next graph. This indicates that we have a five major aspects that we have considered, which includes the power generation, second is the transportation, third one is the industrial development, and finally we have a buildings or the residential area and its development. So by comparative of all these five sectors, it indicates that transportation is one of the second most having the impact giving type of the source or the sector that we have, which will gives us the high amount of load of pollution. And if you go further for the analysis of this transportation, which indicates that the on-road gasoline vehicles, which gives us near about 20% load of these pollutants. Then second one is the on-road diesel vehicles that we have, which will gives us near about 18% of the load of pollution. Third one is the off-road gasoline vehicles, and this is about near about 3%. The next one is the rail transportation, near about 15%. Then next one is the air transportation that we have, near about 18%. Then marine transportation, near about 9%. Okay, so like that we have a different type of means of this transportation which will gives us the different type of impact on the environmental condition and the load of pollutants generated by this system. Okay. So these kind of pollutants, once it is getting generated, then it will use us the different type of the means or the mechanisms by which it will use us the impact on these sources. So first one is the evaporative type of emissions. So evaporative emissions consist of these kind of parameters, including the fuel losses, then venting of these vapors, then the hot soak emissions that we have, and all these things which will give us the degradation of the environmental condition. Second one is the tailpipe emissions, which includes the various types of the gases and their generation, along with the suspended particulate matters as well as the VOCs that we have, which includes the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, then volatile organic compounds, then hydraulic or the various types of compounds which are related with respect to this SOx, NOx types of gases, and the particulate matters. And all these things results in terms of the impact on the soil as well as on the people who are comes in contact with respect to such kind of load of pollutants. Next one is the non-fuel type of related emissions, in which specifically we can consider about these particulate matters and their emissions. So these kind of particulate matters that will give us the suspended type of particulate matters in the system, and ultimately it will give us the impact on the respiratory system of all the living person. Okay? So these kind of impacts that we have to consider in terms of the type of load of pollutants which are generated by this transportation means. Okay. Then non-road emissions, which also includes about the emissions from this use of these non-road engines, then non-road engines which are used for in an extremely wide range of the applications, which includes the marine diesel engines at the various load conditions, then aircraft emissions. So all these things which will result in terms of the heavy load of pollutants along with the heavy metals, and ultimately it will give us the short term as well as the long term bad impacts on the environmental conditions. Okay. So once we get these kind of load of pollutants which are getting generated, then ultimately it will use us the health impact on the each and every living things, which includes the major part as a 90% of these air pollutants that will use us the death occurrence just because of the low as well as the middle income countries like Asian and African countries that we have. So we have to be more careful regarding the type of transportation mechanism that we have, and what type of fuel that we are using for such kind of systems. So as to minimize these kind of impacts, first of all, we must have to go for the uh, find out the various types of sustainable alternatives that we have for this fossil fuels. Then it will also gives us the impact related with respect to this low income groups, then the nearby road activities that we have, maybe the schools and other types of buildings that we have that are getting badly affected just because of the load of pollutants which are getting generated. Then near about 4.2 million deaths that we are getting at the worldwide level just because of this air pollution, which is reported by this WHO in 2018 report. Then also we have near about 17% of this death just because of this acute lower respiratory infections, and the 43% of all these deaths and the disease from this chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases that we are getting just because of the ambient air pollution resulted because of this transportation, which was also reported by this WHO in 2016. Then there are various types of studies which were carried out, and it indicates that various types of issues or the health issues which are given by these transportation mechanisms. So as to minimize these kind of impacts, we must have to study and analyze what are the different type of modes and mechanisms of this transportation that we are using, and what are the different type of sustainable type of transportation means that we have to select, so that it will help us to minimize the impact on the environmental condition as well as on the people who are residing in such kind of area. Okay. So that's why there is a need of this green technology. Okay. So as to minimize these such kind of major issues which are generated by this transportation, we must have to shift towards this green technology. So what is the background for this green technology? It is evolved with respect to the various centuries that we have, and with respect to the waves of innovations that we have. Right now we are in the sixth wave of the innovation, and this wave indicates that there are various types of needs that we have which are related with respect to the sustainability. That is first and most important parameter. Second is the radical resource productivity, then whole system design, biomimicry, then green chemistry, industrial ecology, renewable energy sources, and finally the green nanotechnology sources, by which we can adopt the different type of tools and technologies which will help us to minimize the impact at the global level. So this is the current or the today's need that we have, and that is demonstrated by this green technology. So this green technology acts to reduce the contaminants as well as the harmful processes that we have through a directly counteracting through them or through altering the conditions that creates them. Okay, so this is the one of the important system that we have to consider, that is the green technology, as the green technology is the best mechanism or the tool which will help us to identify the what are the different type of alternatives for each and every activity that we are going to carry out, or the different type of tools that we are going to utilize, or the modes of communication that we are going to utilize. So the alternatives are getting studied with the help of this green technology system, and after that we can select a best technology which will help us for the sustainable development. Okay. So this is the green technology which we have, which is environment friendly, and which is developed and used in a such a way that it does not gives us any kind of disturbance to the environmental condition, as well as it will use us the conservation for the natural resources. So this green technology is a system that uses the innovative methods to create an environmental friendly products in each and every sector. Okay, so nowadays this is the need of the green technology that we have to adopt in terms of this transportation mechanism, so that it will help us to minimize the impact of these various types of ill effects which are given by this transportation in this system. Okay, so what are the different type of principles that we can develop and utilize for this green transportation? Okay. So first of all, it is the prevention. So prevention is one of the basic principles that we have to carry out in terms of this green transportation. And here we are getting a total 12 principles. And all these principles are based on this green technology as well as on the green chemistry. As we know that chemistry is one of the basic parameter that we have to consider in each and every aspect, because chemistry which will use us the permanent type of changes, and so as to avoid these permanent type of changes, we must have to follow some kind of green chemistry principles, and these principles are also inherited in terms of this green technology, which results in terms of the development of this green transportation principles. So first of all, it is the principle of the prevention. So in this case, first of all, we must have to adopt such kind of fuel which will help us to prevent the generation of any kind of load of pollutants. Okay, so that is the prevention that we have to adopt with the help of this first principle. So in that case, it is a need that we have to identify there are various types of alternatives of these fuels which are available, and how we can select a best suitable type of fuel for the vehicular purpose, so that it will help us to generate a zero load of pollution in the environmental condition. Okay, so this is the first principle. Second one is the atom economy. So atom economy indicates that the what type of fuel that we are using, it must be utilized in a very efficient manner. Okay, so that is the atom economy. So we must have to focus on each very small or minute amount of this fuel that we are using for the transportation mechanism purpose, and the type of fuel which we are using, which should not gives us any kind of load of pollutant on the environmental condition. Okay. Third one is the it should be a less hazardous chemical synthesis. Okay. So while producing that fuel, it should not have different type of physical, chemical, biological, thermal, and all different type of processes that we have. And all these process should not be any kind of hazardous in nature. It should not consist of any kind of chemical synthesis, and these synthesis which may relates towards the load of generation of these pollutants. So it should be avoided for these such kind of the generation or the development of this type of fuel. The next part is related with respect to the design of that vehicle. We have to go for the designing of that vehicle, as well as in the case of that type of fuel that we are using for the engines. Okay, so that engine design should be a very safer in the nature, as well as the combustion technologies that we are using, it should be in a such a way that it will use us the only outcome in the form of energy. Okay, so energy of that fuel, it should or it must have to give us the result in the form of the movement energy. Okay, so that is the important parameter that we have to consider in terms of this designing of that safer fuel as well as this combustion technology. Next one is the safer solvent as well as the different type of auxiliaries that we are using for the development of this transportation mechanism. That is the various types of vehicles, various types of means of transport that we are using. Then the design for the energy efficiency. Okay, the type of fuel that we are using, it should be very efficient in nature. Then the use of the renewable feedstocks. Okay, so feedstocks that we are using for the production of that energy, as well as the fuel, as well as the various types of the parts required for the development of this transportation means, it should be a renewable in nature, and it should not give us any kind of bad impact on the environmental condition. Then after usage of any kind of transportation means or the vehicles, it should not give us any kind of unwanted derivatives. Okay, so whatever different type of outcomes that we are getting after dismantling of that vehicle, it should gives us the recycle and reuse type of applications, so that it will help us to reduce the generation of the waste in our system. Okay. Then next one is the catalysis. So catalysis is the type of chemicals that we have to utilize for the production purpose, as well as the various types of materials that we are using for the fuel purpose, as well as the conversion of the energy from one form to another form. So what type of catalysis that we are using, it should be a very efficient in nature, and it should not give us any kind of impact on the environmental condition. The next principle is the design for the degradation. Okay, so any kind of vehicular design that we are going to carry out, so it should not give us any kind of bad load on the environmental condition for the degradation purpose. So you can take an example of various types of vehicular parts, spare parts. So mostly we are getting these spare parts are made up of the metals. Okay, so instead of these metallic parts, can we go for the development of such kind of the parts which are degraded once it is getting utilized properly? Okay, so at this stage of disposal, these kind of parts should not give us any kind of bad impact on the environmental condition. Okay, next principle is on the basis of this real-time analysis for the pollution prevention. You know that there are various types of the types of fuels that we have, which we are using, which ultimately gives us the impact on the environmental condition. So we must have to go for the development of such kind of mechanism, which will give us the real-time analysis of these pollutants which are getting generated, and how we can go for the prevention of these pollutants. Okay, and finally we have the inherently safer design for the accident prevention purpose. Okay? So all these are the most important principles that we must have to follow in terms of this green transportation while planning, designing, development of each and every type of infrastructural developmental purpose. Then for the various types of vehicles while designing and development of such kind of things, and also the various types of fuels which we are using for this transportation means purpose. So all these kind of principles that we must have to understand and utilize it very effectively, so that it will give us the green transportation. Okay. So this green transportation is used for the reducing the environmental damage, which is originated just because of the individual use of various types of vehicles that we have. Maybe the various types of vehicles which we are using, either your private vehicle or the commercial vehicle, or the various types of public transport vehicles which we are using. So these kind of vehicles which still we can use it, but it should not give us any kind of bad impact on the environmental condition. Okay, so for that purpose we have these kind of principles of this green transportation. So how we can go for this sustainable transportation system with the help of green technology? Okay. So in that case, we will see these three important aspects for this green transport. Okay. So in the case of green transport, first of all, the ecological conditions that we have to consider. We know that we have a ecology which is getting badly affected by various types of means of this transportation purpose, and it is mainly because of the load of gaseous pollutants which are getting generated. So the emissions, first of all, we must have to reduce. Then second one is the various types of resources which are getting consumed by the various types of means or the mechanism of this transportation. It should get minimized. Okay, so this ecological condition can be balanced in the effective manner, as well as it should not getting compromised for the future demands or the future needs. Okay. Second point that we have to consider with respect to the social aspect. Okay. So in the case of social aspect, we must have to go for the proper awareness regarding the transportation system that we have, and we have to improvise the awareness to all the common people, because people are not knowing about the various types of impacts which are given by this kind of the load of pollutants which are generated by these transportation mechanisms, and the ultimately its effect on the society with respect to the quality of life. Okay, so this quality of life that we can improvise if we are going to minimize the impact on the environmental and the economical system that we have. So in the case of economy, we have to reduce the cost of the production as well as the cost of the transportation, and also we need to avoid the uh, generation of various types of unrequired, the various types of products which are unnecessarily generated. So these kind of things that we have to avoid it for the economical adoption purpose. Okay, so all these are the various important parameters that we have which are related with respect to this green logistics or the green transportation purpose. Okay. So, what are the key drivers of this sustainable change that we are getting in terms of this green transportation? Okay. So, first of all, the important parameter is related with respect to the energy. We know that each and every type of vehicle is getting transported with the help of fuel. So in that case, we must have to understand the what type of fuel that we are using and what is the cost of that fuel. Okay. So first of all, we must have to understand that we are solely or mainly depend on this oil sector, which is a fossil fuel, and that is very limited in nature. And because of that, the cost of such kind of energy sources are getting increased day by day. So that's why we must have to go for the alternatives of different type of sustainable types of renewable types of energy sources, and ultimately it will help us to minimize the cost of these kind of fuel in the transportation system. Then also the increase of the transport volume that we have. So in that case also, the amount of transportation which is getting impact on the environmental condition. And we must have to understand the bottlenecks which are generated by this transport infrastructure system. You know that there are various types of transport infrastructure systems which are developed, and these infrastructures, uh, if it is limited in nature, then ultimately it will gives us the generation of these bottlenecks. And all these bottlenecks that will, just because of the increase of this transport volume as well as the traffic jams that we are getting. Then the public and political pressures. Okay. So this public and political pressure is related with respect to these taxes, then internalization of this external cost and the emission limits that we have. Then the lower tolerance for the limiting mobility and the environmental pollution. That is also one of the parameter, or we can call it as a driver for this sustainable change that we have. Okay. So this is the uh, important concept that we have to consider in terms of the issues and challenges which are related with respect to this transport, as well as the drivers, or we can call it the key parameters which will result towards this sustainable or the green transportation. In this case, again, we have to go for the shift towards the fuel which is sustainable in nature. Okay. So here we have to consider about this uh, methodology in which it indicates that what are the different type of the synthetic natural gas and other types of the energy sources which are available, that we can use it in the very effective manner, which are naturally available in nature. And ultimately it will help us to minimize the impact on the environmental condition as well as the load of pollutants which are getting generated by any type of means of this transportation. Okay. Then also we have to go for the change in terms of the vehicular designs, that is the aerodynamic designs that we need to carry out. And this whole design that will result in terms of the avoid the losses. Okay. So these losses, just because of the resistance which is offered by this the aerodynamic conditions. Okay. The next one is the point related with respect to the change in terms of this air to fuel ratio. So this is also one of the important part that we have to consider if we are still using these conventional fuels. So in that case, we must have to go for the optimization and modification related with respect to this air to fuel ratio. Then change in terms of the mode of transport, that also we have to carry out, so that it will help us to minimize the impact on the environmental condition. The new innovations that we have to carry out in terms of this transport mechanisms, and there is a most importance that we have to give towards the research in these transportation mechanisms, which will result in terms of the development of such kind of vehicular systems, such kind of fuel system, which will give us the least impact or the zero impact on the environmental condition. Okay. Similarly, if we are not able to get the proper results with respect to the design and development, with respect to this research in all these aspects, then we have to go for the stringent norms in the case of this pollution systems. Okay. So we have to go for the setting the revised pollution limits, so that at least it will help us to optimize the usage of this transportation means. Okay. So these are also important parameters that we have to consider for this sustainable change. Okay. So in that case, the one of the major part that we have to consider, that is the energy consumption. Okay. We know that energy is one of the basic parameter that we have in the case of this transportation means. And out of that, first one is the gaseous type of energy sources, which includes these the heavy oil, biofuels, kerosene, then the gasoline, then diesels that we have, and the gaseous contribution that we have near about 0.74%. Okay, it is related with respect to this the different type of applications. Okay, so in this case, it indicates that diesel, then gasoline, then their applications which are carried out for this heavy road system, light road system, which contributes near about 52%, that is major in nature. And also these heavy road as well as these light roads which are used for this passenger transportation purpose, near about 57%, and for the freight transportation near about 43%. Okay, which is contributed like this. And here we are getting a losses. Okay, so ultimately the mechanical losses that we are getting in the form of energy as a 32%, and the energy losses that we are getting by different other means that we are getting near about 68%. So all these parameters that we have to study thoroughly so that we can effectively go for the proper research and development in terms of this effective, or we can call it as a green transportation mechanisms. Okay, so alternative studies for such kind of fuel system as well as this the study of these fuels that will result in terms of the how these comparative study of these fuels that will help us to reduce the impact on the environmental condition. Okay. So here we have the various types of fuel cars. Okay, and ultimately it may consist of the high cost of the insurance, then the pollution environment, then the consumption of the gases or the amount of fuel which is required in a very large quantity, so as to minimize these kind of the various types of load or pollutants generated by these kind of source. We must have to shift towards these green cars. Okay? So these green cars having a very easy maintenance, low cost insurance, then these type of vehicles are very environment friendly, and ultimately it will save the fuel. Okay? So this is the comparative study that we have with respect to the earlier scenario of the different type of fuels that currently we are using, and if we shift towards the renewable type of energy sources, then ultimately we can get all these benefits with the help of these green cars, and ultimately it will shift towards the green transportation mechanism. Okay. So what are these alternative fuels that we have? Okay. So for these green vehicles, we can use this water powered energy system, then electric power, then solar power, as well as the wind power. Okay. So these are the major alternatives of the fuels right now that we have, and still there are various types of research which are going on in terms of this the energy sources which are renewable in nature, and that we can use it in the effective manner, which will help us for the proper development of these green vehicles and their transportation mechanisms. So how we can achieve all these kind of sustainable or the green transportation mechanisms? Okay. So for that purpose, we must have to go for the attainment or the utilization of such kind of advances of these transportation mechanisms. So first of all, it will start with respect to the various types of the the manual energy. Okay, so in that case, we have to go towards the smart bicycles. So these smart bicycles having a new designs, materials, which includes the high-tech electronic control systems, which will help us the geotagging, then the route optimization, then the information, then collection, then the communication. So all these major aspects that can be given with the help of the smart bicycles that we have. So we have to shift towards such kind of smart bicycle system. Then in the case of major transport system, we have to go towards this maglev type of trains. And these kind of trains are developed by the China Railway Rolling Stock Corporations. And this train utilizes the electromagnets to leviate just above the track, and it provides forward propulsion. Okay, and it will help us to minimize the losses in the case of this transportation, and the purely it will use us the green transportation because it doesn't give any kind of load of pollutants generation while using such kind of maglev train transportation system. Okay. Similarly, we have to go towards this multi-directional elevators. So in the case of multi-directional elevators, it uses the principle of this magnetic leviation, that is the cabins which moves up and down with a one shaft that travels horizontally, and it also help us to move with the help of such kind of multi-directional elevator system, and ultimately it will help us to minimize the impact on the environmental condition without giving any kind of load of pollutant in the environmental system. Similarly, we have to go for the various types of development which are related with for the storage of this electrical energy. So nowadays there is a need to work more on the storage of this electricity, and for that purpose we have to study about the various types of the battery systems. So there are various types of next generation lithium batteries that we have. So these kind of batteries are going to store more amount of energy, and it have the least amount of losses, which increases the 20% efficiency of the such kind of batteries, and ultimately the mode of transportation and communication that can be smoothened with the help of this the advanced type of lithium ion batteries. Similarly, we have this the safer atomization navigation systems like GPS and all that systems that we have to adopt. Then enhanced drone system, you know that various types of advanced drone technologies now we have developed, which ultimately gives us the effective and the efficient transportation mechanisms so as to transport the goods as well as the people from one point to another point with the help of the least amount of load of pollution, because most of the enhanced drones that we are operating with the help of electrical energy. Then also we have to think about the hypersonic air travels. So for this hypersonic air travels, there are various types of the vehicles and their machines, engines that we have developed, which are working with a more speed than the sound, and which will give us the least impact on the environmental condition also. Okay. So these kind of systems that we have to consider, along with the satellite-based air traffic control systems. So this advanced satellite-based air traffic control system that will help us to manage the various types of the traffic management system, as well as the air traffic can be very smoothened in the effective manner, and it will help us to avoid the various types of accidents. Then next one is the self-driving electric buses. Okay, so self-driving electric buses also we have to develop in the effective manner. So in the self-driving electric buses, this energy is also getting produced with the help of the solar system. Okay, so this is also one kind of innovation that we have to consider in terms of the self-driving electric buses. Then the various types of smart roads. We know that for the transportation purpose, we have to go for the development of these infrastructures. So this infrastructure consists of this road network system. So we must have to go for the development of this smart road network system, which is able to communicate with respect to the vehicles, with respect to the people, by using the various types of sensors, the data capturing system, and also it is responsible for the change in the case of environmental conditions, and it will help us to improvise the environmental condition with the help of the pervious layers by which we can infiltrate the water towards the ground, and it will help us to recharge the groundwater naturally. Then similarly we have to go for the development and adoption of such kind of smart road systems, which will help us to minimize the impact on the environmental condition. Then last one is the ground level pedestrian lights that also we have to adopt, so that it will help us to minimize the different type of safety purpose on the road network system. Okay. And finally, why we have to select this green transport. Okay. So for the selection purpose, we have to consider all these parameters. First of all, these green transportation mechanisms that will help us to reduce the carbon dioxide and its emissions in the environmental condition. It will lowers the non-scheduled types of maintenance for the each and every types of vehicles. Then the whatever different type of taxes that we are paying, So rebates are available for these kind of green vehicles if we are going to utilize. And next one is the lower the noise pollution with the help of these green vehicles that we are using. Then there are various types of warranties which are available, maybe in the range of 8 years or for the 1 lakh miles of these vehicles and its movement. Then incentives such as free parking that can be given for such kind of these green transport vehicles. Then no tune-ups are required for the various types of vehicular system, as there is no engine which consumes fuel which is based on this the fossil systems. And finally, the 100% recyclable batteries that right now it is getting developed, which will give us the least impact on the environmental condition also. Okay. But still there is a need of various types of developments in the case of this green transportation or the various types of vehicular developments. So these negative factors that also we have to consider. First one is it is more expensive in nature, so that's why we have to minimize the cost of such kind of vehicles. Then higher preventive maintenance which is required. Then fewer trained mechanics are available right now, that we have to provide a more the trainings for such kind of people who are working in such kind of sector. And last point is the increase in the power plant emissions, because ultimately it is resulting towards the high end amount of energy consumption for the electrical energy sources of these vehicles, which ultimately increases the consumption of this power and the fuel emissions. Okay. But still we have to take it positively, and we have to consider all these points as a challenges. And there is a need to work on all these sectors so that we can use all these vehicles in the effective manner, and it will help us to get this green transportation. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to all.
Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Jahal's yeah, outstanding speech, and we have the
Thank you.
comprehensive understanding about the green technology development in India, and how the prospects for India's for the technology promotions, development, and even the policy perspective. And we know about the greenhouse gas emissions matrix in India. Okay, thank you very much. I think we can have, we'll proceed for a break time. And during
Yes, sir.
this break time, I certainly welcome all the participants to send your questions on the chat box. And during this period, I think Dr. Shahad can have a rest and to check what the questions you would like to answer in priority. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And now we have the promotional videos from IIT Institute. Thank you very much.
Life essentially is all about getting better. Better living, better dreams, a better tomorrow, a better you. That's what your goal should be. To be better than the person you were yesterday. The only person you should be competing with, you, every day, every moment. At Rajarambapu Institute of Technology, or RIT, we learn for the better, together. Through education, ethics, and enhancing skills. Skills that build competent engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, we are the RITians, day in, day out. There are new things to find out. Whatever the idea, I give it my best shot. Victories and failures come and go. but the thrill of taking the ingenious route keeps me excited, keeps me going. I feel rediscovered at RIT. I feel changed. We innovate, experiment, improve on our weaknesses to gain experience. Experience that will make me stand out. Observe, analyze, and harness my own perspectives. And with experience, I feel confident. There were avenues for every stage. There's a platform for every talent. RIT's strategic academic programs enable your aptitude to determine its own altitude. RIT offers you the resources to engage, academics to educate, infrastructure to execute, and training to excel. Discover your passion, unleash your potential, confront hurdles with confidence. At every stage, I get the support I want, the direction I need, the facilities I require.
Rajarambapu Institute of Technology, which was started in 1983 by late Shri Rajarambapu Patil with a vision to give engineering education to the rural people around here. This was started with just 3 programs and an intake of 180. And today, after more than 3 decades, this institute has more than 3,500 students on the campus, and which starts from diploma, degree, postgraduate programs, PhD programs, MBA programs, and there is whole spectrum of programs provided here to make our students a professional graduates.
In last 30 years, hundreds of students belonging to farmers' communities have passed out of this engineering college and at present are working in the different countries of the world. In this way, they have really fulfilled the dream of Loknature Rajarambapu Patil, seen by him long back in 1983.
There are no boundaries for learning here, no rules for innovation. Your imagination is the only limitation. Come over. Dream chasers are always invited here. Growth is a gradual process. RITians are encouraged at every step of this pursuit to excel at the career level and also to emerge as discerning citizens by facilitating their comprehensive development. Just as in every game, winning is a two-way process. While motivation is imperative, cultivation of persistence is indelible. My decision to be a part of RIT turned out to be a landmark in my career. Each new day is better than the last. Better things keep happening here. Opportunities to connect, commit, contribute, and celebrate are an integral part of RIT's culture. A culture that diligently observes fair practices for all members of the RIT family. Yes, we are a family that supports each other, rises together, garners memories together. This is where we become better than what we were. More than what we are. We care, share, aspire, and respect each other. Integrity is everything. Because when we are connected, we become better. That is what we are here for, to learn for better together. At RIT, I feel ready.
Where ideas were born. Where did Microsoft, where did Apple, where did Amazon, where did Google, where did Facebook come from? They came from ideas that people felt something could be done and that they could make a difference.
Okay, yeah, it's very impressive video clips, and wow, you have the great campus, and I was also impressed about the outcome-based learning from your yeah, and the state-of-the-art library facility. Wow, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we have maybe 3 questions coming up, right? Yeah. So, Dr. Shridhar, do you have any priority for any questions you'd like to answer first?
Well, I'll start with the first question that is the raised by Dinah.
Diana, okay, please
Yeah,
show up
yeah,
the questions.
yeah. She says that how this green transport be more accessible to the common people in the developing countries. Yeah, it's a major issue that we have to consider because right now this green transportation is the underdeveloped and still it is in the research phase that we have. So first of all, to get it common for each and every people, we have to develop different type of policies as well as the governmental rules and regulations that we need to modify, which will help us to analyze what is the public sector that we have, how we are going to utilize the various types of vehicles and the amount of the fuel that we are using. And ultimately, if we are going to adopt this green technology or this green transportation system, then how it will use us the impact on the environmental condition. So for that purpose, government have to decide the policies which are related with respect to this eco-friendly system, which will help us to attract the various types of industries from the foreign sectors, which are deliberately giving us the very good type of development of these vehicles, and these vehicles can be utilized by the common people. That is the first point. Second point that we have to focus, that is on the research. Okay, at the national level also we have to focus on the various types of research. So in the case of research, first point is related with respect to the fuel that we are going to utilize. So right now we are using these fossil fuels. So instead of fossil fuel, what are the alternative fuels which are available with us? So we need to carry out the research on these fuels, and out of that there are various types of renewable energy sources which are available. So how we can use it very effectively? If we take an example of Indian situation, so in this case we are getting a very good solar energy system. So we are trying to utilize this kind of energy source for the different type of vehicular purpose, and ultimately it is working very effective in nature also. Okay. So such kind of local strengths that we need to identify, and based on that we have to go for the more research. Then also we have to go for the development of these kind of vehicles with respect to such kind of green fuels that we are using. And finally, we have to more focus in the research for the sustainable developmental process for this vehicular development. The next point is the we have to, or the government have to offer some incentives to the industries who are going to produce such kind of green vehicles. That is first point. Second thing, that we also have to, that government also have to give some incentives to the common people who are going to utilize such kind of vehicles. So once we provide such kind of incentives, then the industries are going to start their production, as well as the people are going to utilize such kind of things. Then similarly, we have to revise the current practices of the fuel usage, and also we have to go for the change in the case of various types of norms. Okay, so ultimately it will help us to betterment and the development of these green transport vehicles in our system. Okay, so I
Yeah.
hope Diana get the relevant information related with respect to this green transport for these developing countries.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the answer, and I think it's also very critical questions for India. We all look forward for the development of more affordable electrical vehicles and even the motorcycles from India, with these very strong research abilities and strong government incentives as well. Okay, so I think next question is from Wu, right? Okay, let's shut up the questions.
Yeah, yeah, we'll take a next question that is related with respect to the current practices of the research uh, that we have in the electrical or the automobile sectors in this RIT. So first of all, RIT have a separate automobile department, and in this department currently we are working on the various types of sustainable developments which are related with respect to this fuel research, and also we are working for the vehicular designs, that is the aerodynamic designs of these vehicles. That is also work at the different levels, at the undergraduate level, then diploma level, then also we are working at the postgraduate level as well as at the PhD levels. So we have several courses which are related with respect to this automobile sector and its development. Similarly, at the first year for this undergraduate course, we identify some of the students who are really interested for such kind of the green transport mechanisms, and we have several projects which are related for the development of these batteries, then e-rickshaws, e-bicycle, then e-vehicular systems. That all these designs and developments that we are carrying out at the UG level as well as at the PG levels. So these are the various types of developments that we have in the case of this green transport system in the RIT.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think we have other questions from Avios. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Next question is related with respect to these drones. So I thanks to Mr. Girish. He says that the drones that we are using that maybe get hijacked. So that is maybe the future issue. But every coin have its own two sides. So on that basis, I can say that we have to go for the such kind of new developments. In the case of this drones transportation system, we have to go for the additional security systems that we have to provide it, so that it will help us to avoid the such kind of hacking and other types of issues related with respect to these hijacking systems. So that can be minimized, as well as the people who are actually going to utilize for such kind of activities, like criminals or the terrorists who may utilize for such kind of things. So in that case, we must have to go for the development of such kind of rules and regulation, as well as the policies, which will gives us the clear idea regarding the how we have to go for the use of these drones. The issue of the license, that is the first thing. Then the use of these drones for specific duration, specific height, as well as the for the specific application purpose. So all these things that we have to get it on the record, and after that only we have to use it in the proper manner. So then and then only whatever drones and their technologies that we have to utilize, so that will be used for the good cause only. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think this is very good question about the cybersecurities, especially when it apply to the green transportation technology and even the drones. I think it's also a critical issues from the legal perspective. Yeah,
Yes,
but
sir.
yeah, because it's, even it's a legal or social issues, requires technological solutions. Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. All right, so yeah, we have also another question from Burhan.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is also similar question which is related with respect to the hacking, as well as the hacking programs that do hackers that don't act as a basically threatening as a rider's safety, and thus not giving his complete security. So that is also related with respect to the new advances and the developments that we need to carry out in terms of the security systems for each and every type of vehicle, so that any kind of automobiles that we are using which is working automatically, so in that case we have to provide the high end security system which cannot be easily hacked, and it gives us all the types of security alarm systems. So if maybe there may any kind of issues that we have, that can be easily tracked in the effective manner. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. I think we have one more questions from the audience from Christopher.
Yeah. Uh, Actually, we are currently working in terms of this transportation system, and we don't have to create a new transport which is called as green transportation. The green transportation is the actually means of this green technology, which already we have studied about these 12 principles, which indicates that what are the different type of alternatives which are available with us with the help of various types of researchers. You can take an example of this vehicular transportation system. So in that case, we have a different type of fuels which are available with us. That is the petrol, diesel, then kerosene, then electricity, then solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy. So all these are the various types of renewable as well as the non-renewable types of energy sources which are available. So all these sources that we have to consider for the comparative purpose. Then we also have to think about the what are the different type of the transport mechanism or the processes which are effective in nature, and which one is the good in nature, which will give us the least impact on the environmental condition. So that we have to select, and ultimately it will give us the sustainable development for our system. Okay, so it doesn't mean that we have to go for the new creation as a green technology or this green transportation. It is the actually available with respect to us, with the help of various types of research and development which is carried out at each and every sector, which ultimately gives us the various types of good developments in this automobile sector. And it is the need that we have to compare all these developments, and that we have to select wisely the best alternative which will give us a sustainable development for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Shridhar's inspirational comments to these questions. Yeah, I think there's no more question. I think I have one more questions to ask,
Yeah,
if
please.
I may.
Please,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. I think, in your understanding, is there any government-funded, I mean, the big projects for the electronic or automobile development? Because I think there's, from my understanding, the government, the national government in India is promoting the FAME project, FAME 2
Yes.
projects. Yeah,
Yes.
and also I think there are also some incentives from the provisional governments. So, in your understanding, could you give us some comments about these projects and this national basic funding research framework? Okay.
Yeah, right now there are various types of funding opportunities which are available at the national level for the Indian scenario, as well as at the international level. Also, we have a different type of agencies who are giving the funds for the sustainable developmental purpose, which gives us the different type of the developments in this green transportation sector. And one of the important type of development that we can call it as the startups. So in India, there are various types of startups that we have, and all these startups are supported by the MSME. So MSME is the government official system which will help us and the support to various types of new startups in the India, and also it will helps not only in terms of the finance, but also it will help towards the various types of supports in the case of technology, as well as the various types of infrastructures which are required for the production purpose. So such kind of agencies which are available at the national level as well as at the international level also, we have a different type of funds as well as the schemes which helps for the development of these kind of green technologies.
Okay. Thank you very much
Yes.
for Dr. Shridhar's comprehensive analysis and your thoughtful, comments. Um, is there any other? Okay, I think there's no any other questions. So, thank you very much, Dr. Shahad, for your inspirational experience sharing, and we learned a lot. And it's from even from technological perspective, and we look forward that we for the technology development in India, especially, it's a hope for developing countries to have more affordable green transportation technology from your country and from your esteemed institution as well. Thank, thank you. Appreciate that
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you for giving me a valuable platform for presenting my knowledge related with respect to this green transportation. I especially thanks to National University of Kaohsiung, Taiwan, for giving this opportunity, as well as I thanks to the organizers of this workshop series, lecture series that we have, and also I would like to thanks to uh, the managers as well as the organizers from RIT. I would like to thanks to Dr. Sushma Kulkarni ma'am for giving me opportunity to give this lecture for this session. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, I do highly appreciate that, and we look forward for further collaborations, and we certainly would like to welcome you come to Taiwan
Yes,
and
sir,
for our
definitely.
first contact. Okay, thank you very much for coming.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Bye.
and thank
See
you
you.
very much for all the audience online, and for the next week will be our closing ceremony and our closure speech. It's from Dr. Liu Wanyu. She's the expert biological recreation and carbon sinks for forest protections. And she's from National Chongqing University. And she's going to give us the forest conservation and biological recreation in Taiwan experience. So once again, thank you very much for your coming to the lectures. And next week will be our closures for this Asia Virtual Academy online series, lecture series. And we look forward for a new generation of events for the Asia Virtual Academy in next year. Once again, thank you very much for coming. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.